perpendicular, okay? That means that that ventilation valve is closed. That means we're building vacuum up, okay? If I were to release this, it shoots air out there after I've sucked all the vacuum out. So if I were to shut this, take all the air out of it. If I were now ready that I wanted to open this and get my foot orthotic out, I would just let all the air out, okay? For us to build vacuum, that's gotta be closed though. And perpendicular is closed, okay? So it shoots out here, so as long as this is turned, that's closed. We want this to also be closed, okay? That now is building vacuum. So I'm gonna let that stay on because these are old. They're very old pumps and vacuums, so I'm just gonna let that sit there while I do the rest of this for you, okay? So, what we have to do first, anytime we pull anything, for a majority, in orthotics anyways, we always need a wick, okay? A wick is just a piece of material so that when we put the material we're gonna pull our orthotics on there, it has some way to get all that air out from in between the material and the cast, okay? So first thing I did was I went over to the prosthetics lab. Remember where we cut our screen for the screen wire? Mm-hmm. In those drawers, it says nylon stockinette. Second drawer down, we got nylon stockinette, okay? I only need a single layer thick, and this stuff stretches really far. So I should probably be able to get 4 foot orthoses out of this, okay? So we can share, all right? So I'm gonna cut this in half, and then I'm gonna cut it in half again, because that should be plenty for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a knot, make sure both these ends are open. See, this end wasn't open, so I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to tie my knot down here. And I'll show you why I want a knot and not the seam. Carlos, can you grab me a stapler, please?
Yeah. So you're just closing one end?
Yep, just closing one end up. Thank you, Carlos. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot orthoses in here, my foot impressions in here, okay? But I want this little knot to be on the edge of the toes, because that's outside of my trim lines, right? Remember, the insert doesn't go all the way up the front of the toes. It cuts off right there. So then I'm going to take this, I'm going to wrap it, or fold it, whatever way. And then I'm going to staple it down to the bottom of this cast. Okay? That way when I turn it over, I've got no wrinkles on the calcaneus section, no wrinkles coming up over the arch, no wrinkles anywhere, and it's not pulled so tight that the vacuum isn't going to be able to push it down, okay? So I'm going to do that to both of these. When I say just leave it, it's because this is really going to cover that. The tiny little micro holes that you guys have that you asked me if you should fill in and I say no, it's because this is going to cover it, okay? This is going to prevent that material from going in there. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to make sure I'm not bunched up over the calcaneus area. But I also don't want a knot on the bottom of this. If we have a knot on the bottom of this and we put it on there, once we put this under vacuum, it could crack the cast. Okay, so we want to try to get that as flat as possible on the bottom. Okay?
When you say a knot, you mean like the knot?
Yeah, you don't want something like this sitting on the bottom of this. Yep, you want this to really go flat once you push it down. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I need to measure for my material. And since this measurement is going to go around edges, I'm going to use my soft tape, okay? What I'd like you guys to start getting in the habit of is measuring in centimeters and millimeters and not inches. It is much easier to divide by 10 than it is by fractions, okay? If you guys start using inches and I tell you to divide something in half and it's a 1/16 of an inch, does anybody in here know what half of a 1/16 is?
32nd.
32nd. It's not an eighth like a lot of people would do. It's a 32nd. You know how hard it is to count the itty bitty little 30 seconds of an inch? Okay? If you do fractions, that's all you're doing. When you do centimeters and millimeters, you're literally just subtracting by 10. Okay? So get in the habit of starting to use centimeters and millimeters. Okay? We're the only country that does the inches, and it is ridiculous. Alright, so I'm going to go down to the table, okay, where the calcaneus is. I'm going to measure down to the table. I'm going to measure across my foot all the way to the edge of the longest point and then down. Okay? Yes, I want to go all the way down to the edge of the table because I don't want to short myself. Once this heats up, we're going to heat it in the material in the oven, and then we're going to cool it down. Stuff shrinks when you do that, right? So I want to leave myself enough. Okay, so I'm going to go to the longest part of the cast and go down. So I'm at about 34.5 centimeters. Okay, this one should be pretty much the same thing because her feet are the same size. 34.5. All right, so you guys are going to come with me. We're going to go to the material. The material we're going to use is called Trilam. It's trilaminate. Okay, it is P-cell, puff, and something else. I'm going to have to look it up. Plastozote. Okay, it's got 3 layers. You can see it. There's a dark blue. It's like an 1/8 of an inch, then a 1/16 of an inch, and then another 1/8 of an inch of material. Okay, this is what we are going to use on our devices. Okay, so I can take this down, take it in here. This is going to be the first layer. You guys are going to have multiple layers right here, but is that going to be my widest point? No, this is, because this I need to go all the way around to the edge. Up here, I'm just going edge to edge, right? That's the front of your orthosis. When we look at an insert in our shoes, that's completely flat anyway, okay? Okay, this is essentially that part, okay? So I don't care about anything past these edges. That's, we call it outside of our trim lines, okay? What I care about is this, because this is going to encapsulate the whole foot, okay? We're not making an insert, we're making more orthosis, so it's going to be bigger than this is.
So that widest point, would it be midfoot, or are we doing?
That's
all
where
of the
I'm
foot?
going to check first. So if I go midfoot, so I was 34.5 long. So if I go midfoot all the way down, I'm at 13. If I go up here, I'm at 10. So I'm just kind of checking. This might be a little. This one's at 14. So I'm going to give myself a little extra. I'm going to go 15 by 34.5. Okay, I gave myself an extra centimeter widthwise, and I gave myself an extra 1/2 centimeter lengthwise. Okay, so 34.5 by 15. So here's my 15. I'm going to make a nice little mark. And I'm not going to do more work than I need to, so I'm just going to butt this right up there.
One for each mold?
Yep. And you guys pay attention because you are going to have 2 different size molds, because one is a slipper cast, right? And the other is just a flat cast, all right? All right, next thing I'm gonna do, when we vacuum form stuff around, say, the calcaneus, if I tried to just put this in the oven, heat it up, put it on here, this is going to wrinkle back here because it's a square, okay? So we just take it and we round it out. I'm not cutting any length off of it, okay? I'm just rounding out that calcaneus section so that I don't get any wrinkles in there. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so now I have these 2 pieces. So I can put my cast over here. Notice they have these little wicks on them. Okay, we need these wicks, the felt, to stay on here because these little holes are where the vacuum pulls from. Okay, so just like our casts have a wick around them, we also need a wick on the vacuum table. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, put my cast on there. Okay, got my left and my right. Vacuum's going. Now, when we pull these foot orthoses, okay, the blue is the harder stuff, the pink is the softer stuff. What part do you think is going towards the foot? The softer stuff, okay? So when I pull these out of the oven, they're going like this, okay? Because this is the foot. We're mimicking everything to be on the foot, right? When I put these in the oven, the blue side is going down. The harder side is going down, okay? We don't want the pink side to go down. It's really soft and it can actually start to melt, okay? So I'm gonna throw these in the oven. I'm gonna wait until they're super flimsy. Takes maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds at the most with this kind of material. I'm gonna pull them out of the oven. I'm gonna put them directly on here, make sure I have enough overhang on the calcaneus, but I haven't shorted my trim lines up here, okay? And then I'll pull it down, pull vacuum, and then I'll massage in the calcaneus area, okay? Questions right now? Because this part's gonna go quick.
The trim line is just a little bit past the edge of your foot pad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like any amount, or just as long as you got enough to cover the calcaneus.
Yeah, as long as you have enough to cover the calcaneus. You want it completely encapsulate the calcaneus.
Good.
Huh? I turned it on. Okay, you can see it. They're getting pretty flimsy, right? I'll leave them in there for like 15 seconds longer just because I really like the way it feels when my fingers burn. If you have sensitive hands, for this part, take your gloves off because this material is going to be hot. If you have rubber gloves on and you go stick your hand in and the material is hot, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to melt the gloves to your hand, okay?
I'm just trying to make sure the blue surface is flat against the...
Yep. So put this up there, hit this to open, it's going to start pulling vacuum. I'm just holding that calcaneus area to make sure that gets put down where I want it. And then you should see your foot impression. Okay? That's step one. Okay? Then you're going to be multifaceted. You're going to then take this off. We're going to glue up to the met heads. We're going to add a cork layer that keeps all of that secure. Because once we take this off, once it's completely cooled down, we'll take it off and it'll spread a little bit. Okay? Because there's nothing holding it together. That puff, the P-cell, all of that stuff, it just opens back up and expands. Once we put a layer of cork on there, cork is harder. Okay? We put it in the oven the same way. We glue it. We put it down on the foot orthosis. And then once the cork cools, that keeps that all secure in shape. Okay?
So the cork, once it cools, it retains whatever shape.
Yep. It's almost like a plastic, where it, once you melted it and then cooled it, that's the shape it's gonna make. Okay? But I'll obviously show you guys that part as well. Okay? Only because I don't want to jump all the way ahead and finish these before some of you even have part of this done. I'm not going to go to the second step yet. Once these cool to the touch, okay, you can put your hand on them, you can feel how warm they still are. Once they're cool to the touch, they're room temperature to the touch, I'm going to take them off and I'm going to take my scissors and cut all this excess off. And if I have to leave it overnight, I'm either going to masking tape it together so that it doesn't spread, or I can ace bandage it all the way around so that it doesn't spread. Okay? Any questions on this section, on this part? One of you that have videotaped, please make sure to upload it since Sam is not here. Yes.
So once